afternoon and welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United transfer news as United prepare a new bid for Jarrad Branthwaite, believed to be in the region of £60 million. It's going to be a big 24 hours and a big week for Manchester United as they look to bottom out their first signing under Ineos. We're also going to be talking about Erik ten Hag. He's had some very big things to say about what went on around his job, but also a very accurate description of England's problems with Gareth Southgate, and very interesting considering what the bloody hell were Ineos doing, ever even allowing their name to be linked to Gareth Southgate. How serious it ever got, we don't know. Ultimately, it didn't happen. But oh my God. Also, you may have missed it, but a couple of things that Ten Hag said last night. He was on Dutch TV. You're going to talk a lot. And he spoke openly about Rashford and also injury issues at Man United and Thomas Tuchel. We'll get into all that as well. But obviously, we're here to talk about Manchester United and we're here to talk about transfer news. So a new Jarrad Branthwaite transfer bid will go in this week from Manchester United. It may well go in the next few minutes or hours. Obviously, at the end of last week, we had a bid of about £35 million plus £8 million in add-ons rejected by Everton. A new bid will go in. The belief is that it will have a value of £60 million. Everton fully expected to reject our opening offer. Cheeky, whatever you want to call it. They wanted 70. We've offered about 43 million as a total package. We're now going to go back in, and it is expected that United will probably top out at about 50 million pounds all in, and then 10 million pounds in add-ons that take it up to 60. Is that too much? Is that about right? Well, whether you think it's too much or not, that's where Man United are looking to do a deal with Everton. And I think, honestly, I'm not going to move what I've said, and BC says 50 is plenty, 60 is scandalous, says King. Remember, this will include add-ons as well. Also, just in relation to what's going on at United this morning, lots of information coming out. You may have read it elsewhere as well. All around the centre-back, this new bid will go in from Manchester United in relation to Jarrad Branthwaite imminently. Also, United very much will not stop getting linked to centre-backs, even if Everton are, accept our bid. Man United are looking to make 2 centre-back signings this summer. That is their plan. Obviously, that will come down to being able to move centre-backs on. We will not end up in a situation where we have Johnny Evans, Camboala, Martinez, Lindelof, Maguire, Branthwaite and another signing. We will have to be moving on Johnny Evans, Camboala, Maguire or Lindelof, or 2 of those players. But Man United definitely, beyond Branthwaite, are looking at other centre-backs, and that is why we keep getting linked to them. And maybe Guehi will disappear now because he did very well for England yesterday, and it's certainly gone very quiet around Bremer from Juventus. But still, in there, you've got the likes of Todibo and others, and De Ligt, that could well be that second centre-back signing for Manchester United. Todibo is a no-brainer. But look, do you think that I've got to be fair. I spoke about this last week about Branthwaite before the bid went in, and I said, look, nothing more than 50 million. Nothing more than 50 million pounds up front will do for Manchester United, and I think that that is the right sort of bid for Manchester United to be making at this point. I believe that add-ons to me don't massively concern me because add-ons tend to be representative of success. If a player plays 50 caps for England, £5 million, fine. If a player wins a Premier League, £5 million, fine. But I think £50 million might be a little bit top-heavy for some people, but I did say last week £50 million for Branthwaite's about right. I do agree that our initial offer of 35 makes 50 seem like a big leap. But before that bid went in, I said £50 million is the right valuation. And I think that that's what Man United should be looking at. And what I will say is, look, it might be 45 plus 15, which is even better. But yeah, we can't go beyond 50 million quid. If we can get it down more, brilliant. But I'm not going to sit here and say that 50 million pounds is a bad deal for Manchester United. I think it would be a very reasonable deal and it would tick a lot of boxes for us, but also for Everton as well. And ultimately, this is the centre-back that Manchester United want to go and sign. He is homegrown, he is Premier League proven, he is young, he is ready to take the step up, he is a player that Ten Hag likes, he is a player that our new board like as well, and therefore it would be a nice deal to settle on first and move on from quickly, knowing that we've solved one of our biggest problems from last season. So let's wait and see. The new bid's going to go in. It could have a value of £60 million. It's what we pay as the bottom line. Will it be 50 plus 10? Will it be 45 plus 15? But as long as we top out at 50 up front, I think it's reasonable. I really, really do. Gareth says, what about players? Gareth Robinson. Well, you know what? We're not going to do swap deals. But what we might do is there's a deal with Everton for Branthwaite. Oh, 2 weeks later. Oh, we're selling you Ahmad or we're selling you Wan-Bissaka. And that might be how this works. I think there is a mutual relationship between Everton and Manchester United, and I think that deals can go either way. I mean, I wasn't particularly happy when James Garner went there, but I do think that there is a player there that we could go and look at for them in response to this. Somebody said, what about Guehi? We've always been a big admirer of Guehi at Crystal Palace, and my remembrance about Guehi is that I think he's only got 1 year left on his contract. Let me just double check. 2026. He's got 2 years left on his contract. So there is a deal to be done with Guehi, but I would question whether Manchester United can do a deal like that, considering he's going to have and is having a very much spotlight Euros that yeah, I can't see us getting Branthwaite and Guehi, to be honest with you. But I do like Guehi. Of course, Danny B says Guehi is better, but what you're looking at with Jarrad Branthwaite is that left foot ability. Whereas, yes, Guehi played left side centre-back for England last night, but he is right-footed. So, same with Anacho, left-footed. I do think we ideally want a left-footed centre-back and a right-footed centre-back. That's the balance that we're looking for. You know, and I'm all for buying a centre-back that can play right or left, but we do need to look at that. Just wanted to thank you and the team for all the content. It's super helpful to know what's going on with United. We appreciate it. This is Perry. Thank you very much, and thanks very much for your super chat. Really appreciate that. Do you think Camboire will have a big impact next season, says Nal? Well, I think Camboire might ideally be a player that you want to send on loan, but if we buy 2 centre-backs, maybe we send him on loan. If we only buy 1 centre-back, then I would certainly keep him around. I think he's a player that could have a really big future at Manchester United. Daniel Derbyshire, thank you very much. Welcome to the Members Club. So, new bid will go in for Jarrad Branthwaite. The belief is the combined value will be 60 million, but the initial pay could be around 50, maybe even 45. I ain't bothered about that. I'm really not. Get your comments in. Let us know what you think. And also, in addition to that, Manchester United are still very much looking at 2 centre-backs. So Branthwaite comes in and we still bring another one in. As I said, for me, that could easily be Todibo later on in the window when we've sold somebody else, because we control the Todibo deal because Ineos own Nice. So look, Todibo and Branthwaite, how would you rate that as 2 centre-backs coming in? Out of 10, not the window altogether, but out of 10, how would you rate if we're signing 2 centre-backs, Branthwaite and Todibo? I would say for me, that's a very strong 8. Todibo and Branthwaite, right foot, left foot, both young, both exciting, both ready to take the step up. Combined value of about 80 million quid, 40 million a pair. On average, I would be very happy with those 2. Some people saying a 7, like Aaron's. Alpha Gaming says an 8. I think it's a strong 8, 7.5, whatever, and I'd be very happy with those 2. So let's wait and see what happens with that. Right, we are doing That's Football watch-alongs. We've got all 3 games for you today. Will's in the Goldbridge Arms, ready to go. So we'll be there straight after this at 1:30. Make sure you're joining for all of that. But part of a watch-along last night was Erik Ten Hag watching along on Dutch TV as England played Serbia. Some very big comments that people have latched onto. First thing I would say is that I don't think they're big comments. He's a current serving Premier League manager watching a global tournament, being asked questions about Manchester United whilst being a pundit. This is absolutely normal. We've seen it before. I thought some of his comments were really interesting. I know Beth mentioned it this morning, but I thought what he said about Tadic, who he had with him at Ajax, saying what a fantastic player he is, but also what a fantastic personality he is. never injured, always wants to play. Is that an indirect at Man United? Of course it is. Of course it is. It's not an indirect at any individual player. We see with Bruno Fernandes his willingness and hunger to play every single game. But of course it's an indirect at the playing squad. We had a lot of injuries last season, and we've had a lot of players at Man United who turn up one week and then don't turn up the next, even if they're fit. So I think that consistency of performance is something that Ineos and Ten Hag will be looking to thrive for over the next couple of years. Strong 8 if Branthwaite reaches potential, then 9.5, says Little. Thank you very much. He also spoke about the managerial situation, of course, but interestingly, he spoke about Marcus Rashford being left out of the Euros, and this is what he had to say. Grealish and Rashford were both lacking this season, and when you are lacking, you risk not getting picked for your country. Some people latching on to that. Look, as I said, he's being paid to be a pundit on Dutch TV, and they're going to ask him direct questions, and he's going to give answers. I don't think Manchester United fans, or Marcus Rashford would listen to Erik ten Hag giving an answer to a question like that and have an issue with it. I mean, what do you want him to go? No comment. I'm not talking about my own players. Marcus Rashford, on form, would be a very, very valuable player for England. I look at the left-hand side with Foden yesterday, and Marcus Rashford on form in that team would be really, really good for England. But Ten Hag is right. You are right. Rashford will know himself. He has not been anywhere near the level he needed to be this season, and therefore he's not in an England squad. And a Manchester United manager saying that Marcus Rashford wasn't good this season is not sensationalist. It is a fact, and that is something that Marcus Rashford needs to be taking on board and looking towards next season. Absolutely. I don't have a problem with that at all either. He was also asked about the situation. Now, this for me was, look, our podcast is about to drop in the next, might even be out now, and check it out on Spotify, Goalbridge Saves Football. We speaking about Southgate a lot, and I was saying on the podcast, I just cannot believe, from a Man United point of view, that we were ever linked with Gareth Southgate. And you would have seen me on some shows get very, very, very stressed. Now, it doesn't matter anymore because we're keeping Erik ten Hag, and that's fantastic. And what Ten Hag said about Tuchel, which I'll talk about in a minute, probably means that Tuchel was the number one target that Ineos were looking at. But Gareth Southgate is admired by Sir David Brailsford and Dan Ashworth, and this is very well known. And at some point, Manchester United were considering Gareth Southgate. Now, it might have been a very, very quick decision not to. It might have been, we can't take him because he's England manager. But they never should have spoken about him in the first place. This is Premier League football, and he wouldn't get a job in the Premier League. And we saw it again yesterday, that this is a coach that absolutely doesn't know what to do with good players. His tactics are a mess, and basically he's almost like an absolute B-Tech wish version of Mourinho when he was good, in the sense that he gets a goal and tries to shut the game down after 15 minutes. And that's why we didn't win the Euros against Italy. That's why we went out in 2018 against Croatia. And that's why last night it was boring after 15 minutes, because Southgate scores a goal and then wants to park the bus. Ten Hag had this to say: it's the vision of the manager. England will take a 1-0 lead, then he decides to start gambling with making his team compact and relying on moments for the remaining minutes of the game. Absolutely spot on analysis from Erik ten Hag, and I think every England fan, or every non-England fan, knows that this is the problem with England and Southgate, and he's done it consistently. Basically, as Ten Hag says, the vision of Southgate is to score a goal and then sit back and hope it works out by scoring another goal on the break or keeping a clean sheet. Basically, park the bus football when you score a goal. How he was ever mentioned in relation to Manchester United is a joke. Whether that's Erik ten Hag sort of mocking that or not, I don't know. I just think it was a very honest assessment of Gareth Southgate. I don't think it has anything to do with Manchester United, but if it did, then, shame on United for ever considering a coach like that. He's bloody dreadful. He really, really is. Let's talk about what he also had to say about how it's played out over the last few weeks with Manchester United and the handling of the situation. He basically had this to say on the handling of the situation. He says, look, Ineos took their time. They're new in football. It's normal to reflect the season. It's no secret that they talked with multiple candidates. Here in Holland, this is not done. In fact, it's not even allowed here But in England, they have different rules and laws. So basically what he's saying there is that when you're a manager of a club, you don't expect your club to go and speak to other people. However, again, I don't think it's a dismissal of Ineos. I think it was probably, probably quite rightly caused him a bit of stress at the time. But he's acknowledged it and said that, look, Ineos are new. I wasn't their pick as manager. So they've obviously looked at the situation and they want to, make their own decisions, which is absolutely fine. I think he's, quite comfortable with that situation. He said that they turned up on holiday while he was on holiday and said that they told me that they'd spoken with Tuchel, but they eventually came to the conclusion that they already had the best manager. And I think that is absolutely fine. I mean, again, some people are reading into it and making it a bigger thing than it is. We know Man United and Ineos spoke to lots of different managers, and we know they chose Erik ten Hag. So Erik ten Hag needs to move on from this, and Man United need to move on from this, and we need to move on from this. So acknowledging it and saying it how it is, look, he's basically saying, doesn't happen in Holland. It's not the done thing, but they're new. It's their right to do what they've done. They've done it. They've spoken to people, and they've come back to me and said, you're the best, and I'm the manager of Man United. We are where we are. I don't have a problem with it at all, and I think it's, it's absolutely fine. Some people have also said, what about the contract talks thing, where he said that I still have to find an agreement for the new contract. This isn't easily done. We're going to have to talk about this. Some people have said, well, to be fair, the Ten Hag Out Brigade have said, is there an angle in there that that Ten Hag doesn't sign a new contract with Manchester United? Well, I don't see it like that at all. The way I see it is that Manchester United are really... hold on a minute. Okay. I find it quite interesting that people like Fabrizio Romano, multiple outlets have said that Man United are close to agreeing a deal with Erik ten Hag. Ineos had a very public, long, protracted period of time after the FA Cup win where they spoke to other managers, where it felt like it went on for too long, and then they came out and said, Erik ten Hag's our manager. There's absolutely no chance that contract's not going to get signed, because it would be the biggest embarrassment this football club's had since the last one. You can't do a big review and say that Ten Hag's the guy, and then the contract talks fall down and you have to go and get a different manager. It would be an absolute train wreck for Man United, especially on the 17th of June or the back end of June. So this contract will get signed. I suspect that what Ten Hag is actually talking about is that he doesn't want to sign a contract that leaves him exposed. And what I would expect in that is that he wants some control on transfers, in the sense that he doesn't want to just be given players and have players taken away like Brighton. I think he wants to be able to say, these are players that we should sell, and when we're looking to buy somebody, I want to be involved in the conversation. I don't need the final decision, but I want to be involved in it. And I think that's common sense from Ineos. And I would imagine there'll be other things in the contract that he wants to discuss, like, he won't want some stupid bloody, if you're in the bottom half of the table, we can sack you for 5 million instead of 10. So I think it will be things like that. And I think it will get signed, because ultimately, as many people have said, if Erik ten Hag was thinking about not signing a contract for Manchester United in the next couple of weeks and walking away, if he was going to walk away, he's had more than enough chances since the FA Cup final, hasn't he? So I don't see a problem with that at all. Dash says, can we have a homegrown quota episode for potential ins and outs? I'm pretty sure I had something around that before. And I don't know whether... I'll have it somewhere on who the homegrown players are and what the quotas are for that, because we did look at it before, and I think you're absolutely correct that it's probably worth a revisit in relation to what's homegrown and what isn't. I mean, as things stand at the moment, Garnacho will always be homegrown because he's been here for 3 years under 21 and he's only 19. Mainu is homegrown. Mount, Luke Shaw are homegrown. That's 4 straight away. Johnny Evans, if he stays, will be 5. I seem to recall you can have 17 foreign players and the rest must be homegrown, meaning that you've got to have 7 homegrown players. Mount's homegrown because he's English, Fuge. I think you're getting confused because we only just signed him. Rashford. I think you've got to have 7 homegrown players to in a 24-man squad. You can have more, but your max is 17. Rashford's homegrown. Yeah, yeah. So you've definitely got the likes of Mainu, Garnacho, Evans, Shaw, Mount, Rashford, Maguire, McTominay. There'll be more. There's definitely more than that. There's definitely more than that. There's more than 8. There's definitely more than 8. Wan-Bissaka's still here. Yeah. Tom Heaton as the reserve. Yeah. But look, if Branthwaite comes, you need basically 7 is what we need. And if we buy Jarrad Branthwaite, that'll be 1 as well. So, yeah. Brandon Williams is already gone, Jerry, to be fair. I don't think Ahmad is homegrown. He might be. City barely meet it, says Nomad. Kambwala probably counts as homegrown as well, Gaz. Yeah. But it is worth having a look at. You're absolutely correct. Nawaf, welcome to the Members Club. Thank you very much. Casper says, sounds familiar to me, the comment on Southgate. Perry Smith says, do you think Harry Amas to be involved in the first team setup next season, considering our shortage at left back, or do you think he'll go on loan? I don't know. It might, he's still very, very, very young. It might be another season with the youth setup, training with the first team. I don't think there should be any predictions or pressure on who the young player will be next season that comes through. Somebody will come through next season, and Ten Hag will be already aware of that. I would imagine it's probably Toby Collier, to be honest. Looking at the way Ten Hag spoke to him after the FA Cup final, he's been on the bench a lot. I think Collier may well be the Mainu of last season and the Garnacho of the season before. But you never know who it's going to be. I mean, Lacey's very exciting. Amas, there's so many players that it could be, and you never know. Wheatley as well. Alpha Gaming, thank you very much for your super chat. Strong 8, we've done that one from Lidl on there. And Southgate is to managing what Stephen Hawking was to standing up. Also, any word on Suzuki, says said 3 music official. Suzuki is a goalkeeper, a Japanese goalkeeper that we tried to sign last year that didn't happen. And Manchester United apparently are looking at him again. He is in Belgium, and there's talk that Bienda might move on. I mean, remember, there was that story last week, which I thought was really interesting, that Ten Hag actually wanted to bring in Verbruggen, who ended up going to Brighton, and we all know how good Brighton are at signing players. So I think with Bienda, it's just not worked out, has it? And that can be quite, disappointing, but it's not unusual to have a higher turnover of a reserve goalkeeper because they tend to come to the club. They don't get as much game time as they want. They're young enough that they don't want to sit and be a reserve, and then options come up to go and be a first team keeper. So I think for Bienda, he's hardly played at all in 1 year. He might have expected to play a little bit more. He hasn't had the game time, and he probably wants to move on and get a bit of game time. So you can have this high rotation of a reserve goalkeeper, and Onana is Ten Hag's guy. So I wouldn't be surprised if Bienda moves on. And Solid Blake says he should have got more game time. I think there was certainly time around the AFCON, and there was certainly time around autumn where it wouldn't have been out of the ordinary to drop Onana, but Ten Hag stuck with him, and Bienda hasn't had his opportunity. So maybe there is something that can happen there with Suzuki, but the problem will still remain, won't it? Onana's got to have a big season for Manchester United next season, and I don't see a goalkeeper coming in and necessarily pushing him. Look at Man City with Ortega, very, very good goalkeeper, but it's unusual to have a goalkeeper that good as a backup goalkeeper. So I'm not, I don't really count it really. What about Ben Foster, says Spoiled? Ramos on a free mark, says Raymond. Ray says, I don't think Bienda's good enough, and I don't think Onana's good enough. Interesting. Have you seen the bid we are reading? This is fun. this is a fun comment from Ben. He said, have you seen the bid we are readying of 228 million for João Neves, Antonio Silva and Frederick Orsons from Benfica? Also, Everton are eyeing Lindelof as a Branthwaite replacement. Maybe something there. I mentioned the Benfica bid on the show last night as just paper talk fantasy from Portugal. But I do like the Lindelof thing. I know there's interest in Turkey from some of our players like McTominay, Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof and Eriksen, but they don't have the budgets to take the players that we want to sell. And if somebody in Turkey wants to give us £10 million for Lindelof, in the Premier League, you'll get 20. And that could be Fulham, it could be Everton, it could be Crystal Palace, but you will get £20 million for Lindelof in the Premier League, whereas abroad, you won't get that. So as I've said before, I think with Everton, there is a real ability for us to do some business together that benefits them and benefits us. They're going to have £50 million in their pocket from the Branthwaite deal. And looking around the Premier League, there's a couple of players at Man United who you could get for about 40 million and still have 10 million left. I mean, if I was Everton, Branthwaite out, Wan-Bissaka and Maguire in. Branthwaite out, McTominay and Lindelof in. You know, there's some good deals there. I mean, they might not end up buying any of our players, but I do think that we're not selling duds there. Aaron Wan-Bissaka is a very, 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 very good right back. Harry Maguire is a very, very good left back. Centre back. And so Scott McTominay, I think these three players, Lindelof as well, at a club like Everton, would be very good. Yeah, we're not gonna. We'll maybe talk about that at 7 o'clock. Just remember, we have got our morning show at 10 o'clock every morning. That's not disrupted by the Euros. Our 2 o'clock show will be at 1 p.m. because there's a 2 o'clock game. And our evening show will be at 7 o'clock instead of 8 o'clock because obviously there's 8 o'clock games. And I'll tell you what, I look at that game tonight, pick of the day, France against Austria. I think we're all excited to see France. But I also think it's massively important that we respect Ralph. Get yourself over to That's Football. We're going live for Romania against Ukraine. You know, be part of the crew that watches everything. I'll be back with you at 7 o'clock here. And obviously, we've got 3 watch-alongs on That's Football today. Rohit, you're a legend. Welcome to the Members Club. Let's get yourself over to That's Football.